How are you doing today? I am doing great because you know what? It's October, and October means Halloween. I put up my decorations probably September 30th, to be honest. And Halloween is a month-long celebration. Let's talk about Halloween horror films that we should see, like To Your Last Death. Welcome to the Film Threat Podcast. I am Chris Gore, and as you know, I am super excited about October and celebrating all the great horror films that we get to see this month. I don't know, for me, it's just like I got to watch a horror movie a day just to keep up. And this is one that you may have missed. It's on streaming. It's coming to Blu-ray October 6th. This is a film called To Your Last Death. It is an animated feature horror film that I don't think, based on what happens in this movie, you could ever have done as a live action movie. It would be banned in every country. It is just over the top gore. It's incredibly entertaining within a really clever story. And I have the writers from To Your Last Death, Tanya, Klein, and Jim Cirile on the Film Threat Podcast.
Hello.
Welcome to the show. I am so pumped to have you on because this movie is, first of all, I thought like, well, it's a cartoon. How serious can this movie be? It can't be completely serious. It is a deadly serious horror film that is frightening, is gory, is tragic. You feel for the characters when deaths occur, and the deaths are not particularly done in a simple way. They're all done incredibly cleverly. I meant it when I said if you made this movie live action, I think it would be banned. And it's done in this really amazing animation style. I think the only thing I could compare it to is Metalocalypse and the Death Clock. I love that show. My dear friend John Schnepp was a director on that show. And the style that you chose is like that. I need to know about the evolution of this project of To Your Last Death, because when you wrote it, did you intend it to be animated, or was it originally intended to be a live action? Because it's really done deadly seriously.
Yes. Well, we're talking about the evolution, and just to let your audience know, we're having technical difficulties, so we're sharing a headset. Sorry. So
it's 2020, anything can happen in 2020.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I want to know, like, was it when you were writing this, you're like, we're writing an animated horror movie?
Did we write an animated horror movie? No, we did not. We wrote a live action horror movie. And then we're like, oh, this is more expensive than we thought, because all those death traps are actually quite expensive. So maybe what can we do? And then our fantastic producers, Cindy Rice and Paige Barnett, said, have you considered a motion comic? Because that was the original idea. And since we are the masters of mission creep, it became a lot more than that. So I'm sure you have something to say about that, Jim.
Hey, Chris. So, but once we kind of got the idea of doing it as animation, it really just resonated with us, just because, there's been some anime horror and stuff like that, but I can't really think of another 2D animated movie, at least not one done in this style, certainly, or even at all, really, not one made in the US. So I love the challenge of it. I have a degree in animation from SUNY Purchase, but never pursued it. So it was like a chance to sort of revisit all those things that I know and love, and to do something really innovative and original at the same time.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned motion comic. It does have aspects of that, and it also has the feel of a graphic novel. I almost thought for a second that maybe it was based on a comic book. It looks like it definitely has that feel. But what I also love about the film is none of the events are taken lightly. I think sometimes when people think animation, and that's why I think American audiences don't take anime particularly seriously. I think some things have come along to change that. Shows like Attack on Titan. I'm sure you're familiar with Attack on Titan. And I recently finally got to see the live action 2-part Attack on Titan movie, which I think is phenomenal. But American audiences don't take animation that seriously unless I guess they're singing princesses or it's like a Broadway play. But in this movie, the death scenes, and there's some aspects of the film that are kind of like Saw because there are these death traps, but there's a level of seriousness. I think this is actually a testament to the acting. I want to talk about the acting in the film is taken deadly serious. The voice actors, which you have an amazing cast. You have William Shatner plays this narrator that is very funny. And just a tip on this film: when you see To Your Last Death, watch until the very, very, very end.
Yeah.
There's a great post credits thing that is awesome. And I really regret that I didn't get to see one of my colleagues, Walter Areas, who works at Film Thread. He saw this movie at a festival screening in a theater before lockdown. He said it was incredible, like in the theater, seeing it. I watched it, of course, on video. I had a decent sized TV, but the acting is really, I think, what grounds it in a reality. Can you talk about like the casting and the actors that you got? You have Ray Wise as the antagonist, the patriarch of this family, and he's Ray Wise from Twin Peaks, although the more crazy version of his character in
the Leland Palmer version. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So tell me about the casting and the actors and really what you're going for, because I feel like the tone of this film is really what makes it work. I think if you just watch the trailer, and I would encourage everyone watching this right now, when you're done with this interview, or maybe pause it, finish watching it after, because maybe we'll get into some spoilers, but you got to see the trailer for this movie because it's over the top. You're like, I cannot believe something like this got made. But tell me about like how you grounded it in a reality with the voice acting. I feel like that is so effective.
Oh, cool. I appreciate that. Okay, so we're talking about how we grounded the reality of the story with the voice acting, basically taking this premise seriously, and also talking a little bit about the actors. Okay, so I'll let you start, and then I'll chime in to talk about Mr. Shatner.
Yeah.
Okay.
So hi there. Well, first of all, thank you so much, because that actually is what we set out to do, because it's one of our pet peeves as people who love horror movies, and also as story analysts, writers and story analysts, is that often character in horror movies gets a short shrift for, like, we're just gonna hack him up and we don't need any character development. Here's the thing: horror movies work so much better if you actually care for the characters, if they're actually complex, you actually feel for them if something happens, and that is what you want. You want your audience to fear for your characters, and for that to happen, you have to have three-dimensional characters. So, and yes, we were very lucky with the cast, and we were very lucky that they took our phone calls and that they wanted to make our movie. And I mean, most of them were cold calls, except Mr. Shatner, and Jim has an amazing story about that, because basically we got really, really, really lucky.
So, yeah, Chris, I know you're a longtime classic Star Trek fan, so just as am I. And, the experience of working with Mr. Shatner, it was pretty insane. But just to go back and mention some of the other actors, Morena Baccarin, I mean, basically, we went in cold to all of these actors, representatives. We just rolled the dice. I mean, we're little indie guys. We don't know a lot of people. I mean, but we've had really great luck in the past with just sort of going in and letting the material speak. So that's what we did with this one. And we were sitting around at a production meeting and we were trying to come up with names for who would be a good game master. And I forget who suggested Morena Baccarin, but we were instantly like, oh yes. I mean, this person has the gravitas, the sort of the steely iciness to really sell that she could be this malevolent presence, but also not completely heartless. Like she's kind of just doing her job. It's not like she's just being vindictive for the sake of being vindictive. And that spoke to Morena. We were so incredibly lucky. And she said that the darkness of the script is what compelled her to take this role. So she was the first and only person that we went to as game master. So, I mean, how lucky is that?
Also, I got to point out, she's really hot. What's weird is, I mean, yeah, there have been sexy
Yeah.
cartoon characters in the past. I think that, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, I think might have one of the sexiest in animation history, but
Sure.
this one does as well. And what I love about the performances and the tone the way the film was approached was, it was not approached like an animated movie. It was approached like a movie. So the drama scenes play out like real drama. There is tension. There are dramatic pauses. There are conversations. It's not trying to be a cartoon where it's like you're bombarded and it's almost like there's no area to breathe. Like,
yeah. Thank you, Chris. Yeah, that's what we were going for. I mean, we desperately wanted people to, fall in love with these characters and embrace them as flawed as they are, and that was our mantra, like the whole way through is, just keep it realistic. Nick Meyer, I believe. Oh no, I'm sorry, it wasn't Nick Meyer. It was the director of Superman, the original Superman movie, Richard Donner, had a sign up that said verisimilitude on the set, and because in all things you must believe this world and this universe, and if you don't believe it, the audience won't believe it either. And that was kind of what we were trying to do. We wanted to make these people dimensional, real people that you could invest in, that you could put yourself in that position. You could see yourself as Miriam or one of the other guys, and we didn't want to cheat anything. I mean, of course, it's cartoon, it's animation. There are things that happen in there that are definitely heightened, but we always wanted to keep a level of realism about it. And that's partly why we were able to get the cast that we were able to get, because it wasn't just, anything goes craziness. This is a movie that could just as well be a live action movie. And that's kind of what we were shooting for. But just to go back to Mr. Shatner, you got
to tell the Shatner story. Okay, good. Yeah,
so just real briefly, I do have a personal connection to Mr. Shatner in the form of I went to college with his son-in-law. So now, when we first started working on the movie, my daughter, who was around 15 or so at the time, was very interested in special effects makeup. And, she was sculpting zombie makeups and pouring latex all over her face and all that cool stuff, as, one would expect of a 15-year-old girl. So, but she was amazing at it. And so I contacted my old friend from college, whose name is Andrew Clement, who is a very well-known special effects makeup artist. In fact, he co-designed with his partner Bill Corso the makeup for Deadpool, amongst many other movies and TV shows that he's worked on. And I said, hey, Andrew, do you mind doing a life cast of my daughter so she can sculpt, prosthetics on her own face? Because I didn't know how to do that stuff. And I hadn't spoken to him in years. And he was like, of course, man, come on up to my studio. So I went up to his studio, and he cast, as he was life casting my daughter's face, I said, so Andrew, I saw on Facebook you had a post with William Shatner, and it said that you've been William Shatner's personal makeup artist for the last 12 years or so. How'd you get that gig? And he said, well, it helps when you're married to his daughter. And I'm like, oh, wow, I can't believe I didn't know that. I'm such an idiot. So Tanya and I started talking about this after I got home from the life casting session. And we said, boy, wouldn't it be fantastic to be able to try to find some way to use William Shatner in this movie? But we couldn't really think of a way to do it. And I forget which one of us came up with the idea, but it was Rod Serling. Rod Serling was the idea. It's like, that's what this movie is missing. We need someone to tie it all together, to act as our entree into this very strange universe. We need a Rod Serling character. And once we came up with that idea, it was like, it immediately clicked. So,
He's used perfectly. I mean, it's just like he sort of bookends it, but then kind of comes in and it's so amazing. And also just a big Shatner fan like yourself. Original series Star Trek is still the best. Although I have an affection for Next Generation. I think created some amazing characters.
Of course.
So many classic episodes. But Shatner, to me, Star Trek will always be Shatner. That's I'm clear. And but I think what really is remarkable about the film, and I'm curious because it went on a festival run, it's now available in commercial release and on Blu-ray. How exactly? Yeah. Oh my God. Oh God. Oh, I gotta get a copy.
Note the autograph right. We
Oh,
just got these
geez.
back from Mr. Shatner. We just had the signing session. So
I
wish I had one I could send to you, Chris, but they're all spoken for.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. That's okay. I gotta say, like, I don't think I can remember seeing an animated feature like this. I mean, there's some like one of my favorite animated features of all time that's sort of more sci-fi is Fantastic Planet by French director René Laloux, which came out in the 70s, and which has a very serious, like, apocalyptic. I'm sure you know Fantastic Planet. I mean, it's like it won awards at Cannes. Like it was a freaky. I saw it at a way too young age. And there's all sorts of nudity in that, as is there in your film.
Just a little.
Yeah, no, it's not over the top. It's not over the top.
It's a taste.
But I like, this is what I really admire about the film is the tone and the take. And I'm curious how audiences, I mean, someone like myself would embrace it, but I'm just curious what festival audiences thought, how people have reacted to it. I know at Film Threat, we tend to like stuff that is, not particularly mainstream anyways.
Yeah.
But how have other people reacted, especially audiences?
We're talking about reaction to the film from varying different types of audiences, not necessarily, like the geek community. So here, talk a little bit about that.
Well, we were very pleased, let's just say, with the audience response because, we spent many years working on this. So, and when we had our premiere at Fright Fest in London at the end of last August, and there was our world premiere, and we went there, we were so incredibly nervous because, again, we spent a long time working on it. So, so we were hoping for a good reception because anything else would have been pretty devastating. And so the reception from like day one, literally, was great. I mean, our premiere was great. Every festival was great. And the reviews came in and we were so pleased. And like the audience that came up to us, because we also played festivals that weren't horror specific. So the audience that came up to us afterwards, geek or non-geek, all of them really enjoyed it. Basically, what we heard a lot from the non-geek, non-horror audience was, whoa, I'm kind of, I was kind of worried because horror movies scare me. I don't like gore and I don't like getting scared. And I always sit there with my eyes closed. But that wasn't the case. I was really into it. It was awesome. I liked the tension because I think the fact that it's animation makes the gore for starters a bit easier to stomach, because I think that is what a lot of people, the non-horror crowd, really has a hard time with. And so I think that really helped us.
Well, also,
hang on.
It also goes back to what we were saying before about the depth of character and the story. If that doesn't work, no one's going to like the movie. So we didn't make this specifically for a geek sci-fi horror audience, although we are those people, so we wanted it to speak to them, and we even put in some Easter eggs in there that sort of like flip the conventions of the genre on its head, just specifically for people like you, Chris, and people like us who are going to be thinking, oh, it's going to be Shutter Island, and like, no, it's not. It's a big fake out we put in there just for fans of the genre, but we wanted it to work on multiple levels, just so that regular ordinary folks can watch it almost despite themselves, because a lot of people didn't have any idea what they were going to be getting, and they were just thinking, it's animation, I don't know, it's got Ray Wise in it, well, all right, let's roll the dice. There was a lot of let's roll the dice from our audiences. I think most of them came away pretty happily surprised, though.
Well, I did as well. I mean, an indie animated feature is not something that comes along every day, but one that's executed so well with a level of seriousness that I think respects its audience. And I love the fact that also you can go over the top with the gore, because it's not as if you're doing expensive makeup effects, right? I mean, I just think that anyone that would seek out the trailer to Your Last Death and check it out, I cannot recommend this movie a month. And I I don't know. This is a great way to kick off Halloween season.
Yeah.
Is
right
check
on.
out this film. I want to thank you, Tanya and Jim, for being on the Film Threat podcast. I also want to thank our sponsor, Storyblocks. If you go to storyblocks.com/film threat, it's all sorts of resources for filmmakers. You're supporting the Film Threat podcast by going to storyblocks.com/film threat. There's even resources for animators, all sorts of tools, million plus stock footage clips. So check it out. Tanya, Jim, congratulations on the film. It really is, God, it's just like, in terms of like Halloween films, this is one of your must-sees, because there is nothing like this movie that I've ever seen in horror. So can't thank you enough again. I really appreciate you being on the show.
Oh, thanks so much, Chris. Really appreciate it, especially coming from you, man. That means a lot. So thanks, and love all you peeps out there.